You know we're going to talk about torpedo bats. Let's do it. We're going to talk torpedo bats. I also have a bunch of hot takes, I guess, hot take theater after the first weekend of Major League Baseball in 2025. Jack, our I'm Just Baseball show is for Tuesday, April 1st. There is no fooling around going on today. As always, we are brought to you by BetMGM. So simple it just might work. The torpedo bat arm, Leighton, huh? When you first read this, like, do we need to do a frilly thing, or can you just immediately answer? When you first read this, what was your thought?
So we talked briefly about it on the recap. So just about like the fact that like all the players that were hitting bombs, like a large portion of them had normal bats that they always use. It just became a story because so many Yankees were hitting bombs. The reason why we're talking about this too is you have some unique insight. So I know people might be even tired about hearing about it to a degree, but it's like there's some really interesting aspects of this. At first, I was like, this is stupid. I'm not even going to open the headline or the article because like I knew that it had to be within the parameters of Major League Baseball, and so just anything that people are saying is just silly. Then I saw the side by side picture, and then I'm like, okay, this looks so different. I still knew it was legal, of course, but I'm like, this looks like it's definitely advantageous. I shot out some texts to some people around, like whether it be on the front office side or players, and they're like, yeah, I mean, like if I had a problem hitting the ball off a certain part of the bat a bunch, like I'd definitely be interested in that. But it feels weird. Like we've messed around with different feelings and bats before. Like there's a reason why not a lot of guys are doing it. I'm just glad to hear that because at first I'm like, you're telling me it took this long? It took an MIT genius to make the barrel bigger? Because that's how it came off in the beginning. And I had a lot of people that were like casual fans, like, wait, that barrel is way bigger. You're telling me that they just thought of this? And I was like, honestly, it's a fair thought. Like that's kind of what I thought too. I'm like, you're telling me they just thought of this? No. There's a reason why it hasn't really been done. It's catering to specific guys, and the Yankees weirdly have several guys who hit the ball off the label way too often, and that's why it's more specific to them too. But I know that you have some more interesting perspective on this. But to me, it was just not a big story that was exacerbated by the fact that the Yankees teed off on Connor Thomas and Nestor Cortez.
Yeah, and Nestor. I was going to say the Nestor one was really important, and that was 2 innings plus, 6 hits, 8 runs. Lost in the shuffle of the 5 homers is that Nestor also walked 5 guys. It was like the worst appearance that there was on opening weekend, and I don't think it was really close. And it was unfortunate that it was Nestor in his return to the Bronx, but that's where we were at. The MIT physicist's name is Lenny. Aaron Lenhart was an analyst for the Yankees. He was at the big league level in 2024, and the Marlins hired him this offseason. He is the field coordinator for the Miami Marlins now. So I saw I saw him walking into the clubhouse today. I said, Lenny, you know I have a lot of questions about this torpedo bat. And he said, I'm sure you do. So had like a 20-minute sit down with Aaron Lenhart. And he is a fascinating, fascinating person. And there are so many articles being written about Aaron Lenhart right now. Um, the 411 is this guy has a PhD in physics from MIT. He taught physics at the University of Michigan for 6 years and then wanted a challenge of working with athletes and jumped into independent baseball, was in the Atlantic League, coached at a community college as well after he was done being a professor at the University of Michigan, found
What an
his
incredible
way
person.
I know, found his way into the Yankee wrinkle, and there was an article in the New York Post last year about Aaron Lenhart, and apparently there was one night where Judge was hitting late, and the only 2 guys at the Yankee complex or in the clubhouse or something were Aaron Judge and Aaron Lenhart, and they were kind of fast friends because Lenny obviously understands how meticulous these guys work and how they want to continue to push the envelope. And you know, he was quoted in the Athletic on Monday morning about guys trying to find competitive advantages and pushing the envelope. And in the words of Jim Harbaugh, so simple it just might work. And you know, that is kind of the genesis of this idea, right? Where do you want to hit the baseball? Well, shouldn't that be the fattest part of the bat? Where you hit the
Yeah.
baseball, it gives you a little bit more room to maneuver with the barrel. And the answer is yes. And it fits every single regulation. It was confirmed by an MLB spokesman for the Athletic. And I mean, dude, like it makes a lot of sense. And we saw Junior Caminero take a pinch hit plate appearance with it. We saw Ryan Jeffers use it. We saw Francisco Lindor use it. Cody Bellinger was introduced to it last year when he was a Cub. Like it's made its way around. And he said, this thing has been present for a while. Nobody's noticed until the
Yeah.
Yankees started teeing off.
Exactly. And then like one picture with a specific angle where Jazz's barrel just looked huge. And then of course then he had memes made of it and everything too. But the Yankees teeing off was a big part of it, but only a couple of the hitters are using it. Did he talk about the just I guess the maybe shortcomings of it as well too? Because like it's when I almost think about basically when you're creating this is very niche, like a niche comparison here or like analogy. But when you're making a player on 2K,
Yeah.
and where like you add to the wingspan and that's going to help rebounding or whatever, but it's going to affect shooting. I feel like it's not much different when you're creating a bat and the balance of it. You have these confines that you have to work within, so you can only distribute the weight certain ways, and you got to do it in a way that works towards that player. But if you go too far to one area of the bat, that could throw off the balance. If you go too far to the other area of the bat, it could throw off the balance. So it's like this kind of risk reward, and it's different for every guy. What was his thought on that?
That's where the whole MIT physicist comes into play. Like that's where he can realize, where the ratio may screw guys up a little bit. And he said, obviously it's a very small sample at this point. If the whole league was using it, then he would have a better idea of what is, truly going on. But he was asked about if he feels like this may slow some guys' bat speed because the weight is not what they're typically used to. And he said, as of right now, I haven't heard that it slowed anyone's bat speed. Like it could end up speeding bat speed up for some guys. Um, I think the only thing, and he didn't mention this. This is just me kind of guessing and playing through it in my mind. The only thing that might be a little screwed up, I guess, is just the exact feel because you're used to weight distribution being one way because the bats you swung when you were 7, like the metal bats and the wood bats, they're all kind of distributed weight wise the same exact way. So now this is just a little different weight distribution, but my understanding is like the handle is the same and all that changes is the barrel. So, you're separating the weight of the tip of the barrel by 5 to 6 inches. It seems negligible, but again, like I'm not swinging this for my job.
So at that point, it seems like it's a no-brainer to adjust and just get used to swinging that kind of bat if it
And
really is making the barrel bigger.
and that's the
Right?
way Judge did it.
And
That's the way Volpe did it. Like that's the way Lindor's doing it. I mean, if they don't feel that much of a change, why
well,
not
is
swing
Judge?
the
I
ball?
thought Judge wasn't using the bat.
Not
Is he?
Judge. Sorry. No, Jazz. Sorry,
Jazz.
Jazz, not Judge.
But then it's a placebo thing as well, I do think, where it's like, okay, you look down at that barrel and it looks bigger to you, you're gonna feel a little bit better in the box. And I'm sure it helps, but that has to also be a wrinkle in a sport where it's failure. You already feel like all the odds are stacked against you. When you can look down at a barrel and you already are convinced that it's helping you and it looks bigger, I know that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable in the box. But the last thing on that is like, if it is this objectively better bat to swing with, but hitters don't like the feel for it, I would, as a hitter, presumably spend the entire offseason just getting comfortable swinging that bat. And if it's not in the cards, it's not in the cards. But like swing, 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 and see if you can find it. It's going to be an interesting story, but I think it's also just one of those things where it it was there. It just needed something to kind of shine a light on it. A barrage of almost record-breaking home runs did that. But this is an interesting conversation where I think even for players, they probably weren't even going to hear it out until this barrage of home runs and this conversation's being had. And now you're getting more info on it as a whole. And that may end up resulting in it extending out here more. It's not because the Yankees or whatever. It is a story now more so because of the Yankees. But I think if any team teed off to that degree,
Yeah.
I think it's a story anyways. But it is interesting in that regard, and I'm excited to learn more about it. I've been around the Marlins Park or whatever. I'm gonna try to flag down Lenny when I can if I ever see him.
It's also funny, like 99% of baseball Twitter still is wholly under the impression that Aaron Lenhart still works for the New York Yankees. Like that's the funniest part. People just think that's a Yankee thing, and he's a Miami Marlins employee. And
And as
like,
far as we know, does any Marlin use those yet?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I'm
I'm not.
excited. I'm sure you're eager to talk to the guys about that too. I didn't have a chance to talk to Griff about that yesterday. We were celebrating some other things other than torpedo bats, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm interested to pick his brain on that front too.
And we're going to get to Griff a little bit later on in this episode. Again, it's hot take theater after the opening weekend of Major League Baseball. But yeah, it is fascinating. And I encourage you to read everything you possibly can about this and listen to, whatever you want to about this because, like, it's very it's not very often that something like the baseball bat changes over the course of baseball. And Lenny had a good quote about that. He said, back in the old days they were swinging hickory, and then there was this groundbreaking idea that maybe ash would be lighter to swing, and guys are doing that. So, like it sounds simple in theory, but it takes a long time for people to get out of their ways when it comes to something like a baseball bat. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying an MIT physicist needed to do it, but it's kind of awesome that this MIT physicist
Sometimes
did it.
sometimes it requires an MIT physicist to get us to subscribe to something somewhat obvious.
Yeah,
Like, and I think that's part of it too.
exactly. All right, time for hot take theater. You ready?
Yeah, but
I can,
before that,
yeah,
Colton Cowser out. Did we talk about that? No, we didn't in the
no,
last episode.
we
I don't
didn't.
know if you had that geared up. I'm sorry if I took you off the
No,
map there.
I
But
didn't, but I just sighed because it's bad news. What,
yeah,
thumb fracture?
thumb fracture, 6 to 8 weeks. I just wanted to briefly touch on that because like I mean, I was really excited about the year that he might potentially have for them, the offense that they could have here, and now you're going to bring up the Dylan Carlson. I hope that still means more at bats for maybe a Kerstad in a corner or figuring something out there, and not just Carlson getting rolled out there in
Well,
a
he's
corner as
DHing
well.
on Monday. Kurstat.
He was DHing on Monday, or he is
DHing on
DHing on
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. But that sucks because Cowser is dynamic and play all three, and it's just like you want to avoid the sophomore slump idea, and it doesn't help when you get hurt right out of the gate.
We also know that the Orioles are pretty fragile, and in that division, it's going to take a lot, and it's going to take some health luck to be really good all year long. And it is unfortunate that they're losing one of their best bats for 2 months, especially the way Charlie Morton looked in his Oriole debut. I mean, unfortunately, Morton
Yeah.
looked old in his
Yeah, we
in
were
his
talking about that. It definitely looked old. In the meantime, you're going to lose speed and defense, but not if Carlson's out there. Carlson way better from the right side. You platoon him with Kerstad out there or Loriano, and I think you could still make up some production there.
Yep. So unfortunate news with Colton Cowser, but now we can get to the hot take and fun stuff.
Yes,
You ready?
let's do it.
Roman Anthony might be the best player to ever live. What's the deal? Multi-homer day in his first AAA game of 2025. Amazing.
Um,
Or
it
second AAA game, right?
second one, the first one he was terrible. He was 0 for 3 with 2 walks.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he might actually. It's kind of a wash.
Yeah.
Dude, this is the conversation I want to have here because now we're looking at his AAA numbers too. If you add those 2 home runs, like his OPS, I think is over like 1,000 in AAA since dating back to last year.
Yeah.
He had a good spring. He put some crazy swings on balls. He can play all three outfield spots, but there's not a semblance of space for him. If he is going nuclear, like continues to go nuclear, what do you do? And by the way, the home runs, 110 was one of them, and then the other one was 1065. What do you do?
Can I push one of these guys actually up to being my top first take? Um, I think you have to do something about Wilyer Abreu if Roman continues to go nuclear. But Wilyer Abreu looks awesome. Wilyer Abreu looks like an all-star through the front weekend. That was one of
He's
my
doing,
all-time
yeah, he's
favorites.
doing what he's doing at the big league level. And I mean, we saw what he did through most of the season. Understandably, hit a bit of a wall like every rookie did, I think, last year for the most part. Like, how are you going to move Willier out of a position when he's playing great defense? He's already got a couple bombs. Like, what do you do? In the only area where I see it is just getting Cedon Rafaela back to the bench. I know you extended that guy, but you're trying to win a World Series here, and it's too early. This is if he forces your hand over the next month or two. That's why I also think they should have had him up early and gone for the draft pick because I think he could do it.
Yep.
And if you have Campbell too, you got two shots here at the draft pick. But I mean, I'm imagining if Rafael is not swinging it well through the first month and Roman Anthony's raking, like how long till you relegate Rafaela to the bench and roll with Roman Anthony?
I don't think it's very long at all, to be honest. I think they may want to do that before you get cut off on that deadline. Like, I don't. There's an opportunity to be had here. It is just interesting to me because like Rafaela is an all-world defender in center field, but Duran is no slouch in center either. And I know that Roman wouldn't be a slouch in center field either.
Well, and yeah, sorry because you have if you put Duran in center and then those two guys in the corners, Willier's great in right, Roman is going to be great in left. That's still a fantastic defensive outfield.
I think that's the best way to do it, which is what makes that Rafaela extension even more of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
I
But
understand. I understand why they paid him because you knew that you had the floor of speed and defense with Rafaela. But at this point now, can you justify that contract being on the bench and being a utility piece? Even if the answer is no, you might still have to do it because of the situation that presents itself. And that's the beauty of baseball, man. You can play this game on paper, but when your top prospect hits two homers in one game in his second game at AAA ball, like you might have to think about this.
and just keeps doing it.
Yeah,
And here's the thing, like you're paying him $1.25 million this year, Rafaela, so like it's fine. And you're paying him 2.2 next year. Of course, you want to start to get him runway because you have him locked up here till 2031. But look, if you have to kind of take a year where he's not playing as much as you'd want to play him, I don't think that's the end of the world when you're trying to win the World Series. And this is the overreaction, let's get ahead of ourselves conversation.
for sure.
But I do think it's one that's very likely. And okay, you have the world's like best defensive super utility guy who could still plug in on the dirt and do all these different things. Guys are gonna get hurt, man. Like things happen. So, I mean, I don't think you're ever gonna be kicking yourself that in 6 years you got to pay Rafaela $10 million. Like it's okay. The ARB numbers are mostly what it would be modeled out at, anyways. If anything, maybe a bargain from what he probably would have been making in ARB projections. But
Yeah.
yeah, my overreaction is the Red Sox are going to have a really tough decision to make in a few weeks if injuries don't work themselves out.
I don't even think that's an overreaction. I think that's just a take that's pretty darn valid, but we'll see how they
We
want
didn't
to.
even mention Yoshida, by the way, too. Where the hell does that guy go?
DHs, but like, I don't know. Somebody's going to get traded. At some
Have
point,
to.
somebody's going to get traded, and I have no idea who's going to get traded. I have no idea where they're going to go, but somebody needs to get traded. And
Yep.
I'm very curious to see what Greg Breslow does, and I'm very curious to see if Alex Cora has any thought when it comes to that. We might as well just stay on the Red Sox train because with how good Willier has looked and how good Roman Anthony has looked, Rafael Devers might have lost his superpowers. He's 0 for 16 with 12 strikeouts right now. He's leading Major League Baseball in swings and misses. What happened to the Rafi I love?
He plays third. I I do get the engagement side of things where like it keeps you locked in or whatever, but I don't know. Do you just feel like he kind of went into this series maybe a little pouty and that's why he's
A
not
little?
playing well?
I don't I think you can scrap a little. I think he went into this spring pouty. I
Yeah.
think he's looking at Bregman and is like, hey, that's a fun pickup, but what about me? Like everybody else in that Red Sox clubhouse is saying, we got Alex Bregman. We're going for this. Look how deep our lineup is. And Rafi's saying, I'm the third baseman. You're not the third baseman.
Yeah, Heim Bloom promised me. Yeah, just look, he's got time to sort it out. It's just like the picture of him like with his head down, being consoled, like something tragic could happen. Like it's 4 games, but I mean, you're rarely going to see a player look that lost at the plate. It 32 swings at pitches in the zone, and he swung and missed at 72% of them. What
That's
is that?
that's
I got that number on a test a lot of times. Whenever there's 32 questions, I'm trying to remember. What would that be? Like 20, 22, 22, 23?
70. Wait, 72,
It was 72% of 32
23. 23 whiffs on 32 swings in the zone.
in the zone. Like, to me, that's timing. That's just fully just being out of sorts. I mean, 13 swings on four seamers in the zone, and he missed at 12 of them.
Dude,
That's timing to me more than anything.
and
And I just
how
don't know how
quickly
that could
does
be
that
so
fix?
off.
Yeah, how quickly does that fix, though?
I don't know. It's not like he had a great spring either. It just it seems like it might be a between the years thing right now. And I just how do you even go about that? Because I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen a player look that lost at the plate. It's 4 games, I understand, but like let's say it keeps going. What are you gonna option him? Like you can't. So you just let him keep going. Like let him keep go out, continue to go out there and just get dismantled. I guess because he's Rafi Devers. He's one of the best hitters in the game when he's right. I've just we've seen hitters look lost all the time.
Yeah.
This just feels a little different and weird.
No, that was just a long weekend in Arlington, and you hope that somewhere that isn't Arlington, Texas, is going to make him right. But that was just a bizarre start to his season. And, maybe it was a ballpark thing. Maybe it was a batter's eye thing that we've never heard about. But
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't
I
know.
even alluded to that, but he historically has hit well there. So
Well,
I don't know.
burn some sage and try and scrub it. So
Yep.
that's what we got. One more bad one, real quick. Roki Sasaki, man. What's going on here? I mean, I
I,
know we branded this as like the hot take theater of opening weekend, but I don't really have a hot take here. I'm just a little concerned about Roki Sasaki. Two starts, his start in Tokyo, 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, but he walked five, 56 pitches, 25 for strikes. He comes back, he makes his stateside debut against the Tigers this weekend. Inning and 2/3, he walked four, 3 hits and 2 runs, 61 pitches, 32 were for strikes. So far, 4 and 2/3 innings, 9 walks, 117 pitches, 57 for strikes. That's a strike rate of 48.7%. He's not throwing the ball in the strike zone right now. And I don't know if he was emotional yesterday or that was just like a weird shot of him in the dugout and then coming off the mound, but I mean, he does not look right whatsoever right now.
no, and we talked about that aspect of like the velocity on yesterday's show where he averaged 96.3 in that game. And I mean, I just and the one thing I was saying is I don't want to speculate on these things, but between the challenges to fill up the zone and the velocity being down, it just screams shoulder not being right to me. Like and I don't want to speculate on that, but I'd almost think you'd prefer some sort of explanation other than, oh no, he just throws 96 now. Like we've talked about the fastball shape, it has to be upper 90s to work because it's very standard shape and does get hit hard at 96, 97. I think he knows that. That's why he was nibbling and working more with the split. The split's fantastic, but if that's the only pitch you're throwing, you're going to be in a tough spot. And I think that's what we're finding now is hitters are geared up for the fastball, which at 96, 97 is very hittable. And then they are going to leave the splitter. Sometimes you can't recognize it in time and you're going to swing and miss. But I think anything starting at the knees or really at the belt, you're leaving. If he spots three fastballs at the belt, you tip your cap. You hope that you pulled the trigger on one of them, maybe. But for the most part, I think anything that starts at the belt, I mean, this would be what I would tell my hitters if I was a manager or if I was in charge of this. Anything that starts at the belt, spit on it because it's probably a split. If it's not, and he locates three straight fastballs, tip your cap because he hasn't been able to do that so far this year. And so now nobody is swinging at the splitter at all. And I mean, when you look at the first two starts, 20.7% swing rate on the splitter. Like nobody's going to pull the trigger on anything that starts middle down because they don't feel like he's going to be able to locate anything else and they don't respect any other pitch right now. So I think that's a huge problem for him. And look, I still think he's going to be super talented, but that's part of the reason why I thought maybe they ease him into this thing in AAA.
Yeah.
And when his agent comes out and says, yeah, we might be looking for a small market team because it fits his personality better. And then he goes to the Dodgers anyways. It's even more of a reason why I'm like maybe ease him into this thing at Oklahoma City and have him get there with some momentum, especially because spring training, like it was fine. He saw the stuff, but he walked five in his last outing. And even in the two spring training outings, like they were good, but I still don't think the stuff was like jumping off the page there. And it was guys kind of shaking off rust. I understand he's Roki Sasaki, so you can't really option him. You option Hyun Kim, no problem.
Yeah.
I would have thought that just easing him into this a little bit more would have made a lot more sense.
And you're paying Kim more money, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the signing bonus was big, but you are paying Kim what $2 million this year, and you're paying Roki Sasaki the minimum. Yeah, it is a little weird to me that It's a little weird to me. In January, he chose the Dodgers when all we heard was the mid-market, small market landing spot might have been good for him. But you know what? This is the situation that he finds himself in. He's a global superstar, and I'm sure that there is an immense amount of pressure on him right now, being a global superstar that hasn't gotten off to a rip-roaring start the way Yamamoto did. But remember, Yamamoto, when he threw in South Korea last year, it really
See it
did
off
not
on.
look good, and he needed to sit with that for 2 weeks. The good news for Yamamoto is once he came stateside, that guy settled into a rhythm and he was amazing. But Roki is 3 years younger than Yamamoto was when he came over.
I want to say one more thing though. This isn't Roki Sasaki. He's better than this,
Yeah.
and that's why I think something's wrong. And like this is coming from somebody that, and I'm sure like the Dodgers brass, they wouldn't want to speak about that publicly until he's potentially on the shelf.
Yeah.
But I watched every start from 2023 when he that's his last full healthy season. And it's just a different pitcher, not just because he was sitting 99 and throwing 100 on his 120th pitch of the day. The delivery was freer. The just the energy on the mound was different. To me, I think he feels like his it looks like the body language to me is like he's frustrated with his own body at points this time. And just to put it in perspective, his final 9 starts of 2023,
Yeah.
he pitched 15 and a thirds innings. He walked 7. He's walked 9 through his first 4 and 2/3 innings at the big league level.
Yeah.
And it's not because the baseball is so different. It's not because the hitters are scarier. It's not because anything is different, other than I think the way he's feeling. I understand that there's an adjustment to Major League Baseball, but Sasaki's too good. I really do think something's up there, and because this is not the Sasaki that I've watched like 40 starts of
Yeah.
at the in MPB.
It's unfortunate, man. All right, we are going to. I do have a couple of more negative ones that we'll get to, and then we'll flip to the positive to wrap the show. But before that, we will take a quick break. A couple more bad. I've got 3 bad, 2 of which on the same team. I do want to stick with the Dodger, and this is not a hot take. I'm just asking you a question. At what point does Max Muncy have to start hitting for the Dodgers? And I'm not talking about the A's Max Muncy that went yard in his first career game. Congratulations to him, by the way. Max Muncy with the Dodgers, I get had an 852 OPS last year because he walked all the time, but he hit 232. He hit 212 the year before that. He hit 196. And to start the season in 5 games, Max Muncy is 1 for 18 with 9 strikeouts. I like that he takes a lot of pitches and he's pesky and he fouls off a lot of pitches, but at what point do you need to hit the ball hard in fair territory? Like, I feel like we've lost that Max Muncy a little bit over the last couple of years, if we're being honest.
He has become very three true outcome-ish at this point. Like it's definitely getting further down there. But if he 73 games last year, man, like no 135 WRC plus. If you extrapolate that from a health wise on the or because he wasn't healthy, but from a WAR perspective, he would have been close to a 4-win season.
Yeah.
So like I think that guy you just leave him in there, right? And you just got to roll with it. The challenge is defensively. He's only going to get worse and worse. So when the times where he's not hitting, like it's tough. But he's been fine there to start the year at third, and he looks like he's going to always be passable. Honestly, I honestly just think he's got endless runway, and he's just going to be able to be a three true outcome slugger, Eh, especially after the way he finished last year and was available. And the year before that, he hits 36 bombs. Like I don't know. I know they've got other guys in the minors or whatever, but just he's so proven, and I do think he's an integral part of that clubhouse. Like Chris Taylor's still like on the team. I don't think Muncy will ever get relegated to a lesser role unless it's a disaster for like I would say probably 70 games plus 80 games.
Or they trade for Arenado. Like, that's my thought.
Is
Max
he even
Muncy.
better? Is he a better option?
You think Muncy's a better option than Nolan at this point? I think Nolan's a better option than Muncy.
Depends what you want. If I want slug and I want offense in general, I think I'm going Muncy. He's on a I mean in his last 208 games, he's hit 51 home runs.
Wow.
Whereas Arenado, like it was a step back last year. Yes, you're getting the defense, but I don't know. I mean, are you a sneaky Muncie hater?
A little bit.
I
And
think
it's
so.
a little bit just because I don't see any defensive value whatsoever. And I don't know. at some point, pitches per plate appearance, like you have to do something when you do get a pitch to hit. I understand that like 7 or 8 pitches per plate appearance is awesome and you grind out ABs, but what happens at the end of ABs? And it's not like he's walked 6 times in his first 5 games this year. He's walked twice and he struck out 9 times in 18 ABs. At some point, you need to do some damage on a pitch in the strike zone. And for me, I feel like I watch Max Muncy for several days and I get him doing damage on one pitch. And then everything else is
Yeah,
like,
but it's
oh,
sick when he
Muncy's
does.
pissing, he's pissing off an opposing pitcher again. Look at Max Muncy, that pesky guy. It's not a brand that I love. It's like the Blake Snell equivalent to a hitter. Like I just don't
I
really
get it.
love this wait out thing.
I get it. I get it. And it's why he's carved out this career though, is he's gonna sit, 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 and then crush the pitch that he gets. But it is worth noting too, the way that he finished the postseason, if you extend it into there.
Yeah.
Oh for his last 21 in the postseason with 12 Ks.
Hmm.
So that does support your narrative, but he just gets hot and gets his. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's definitely an area where, like, if they're trying to make the best team humanly possible, I would just for clubhouse purposes and everything. Like, I
Hey,
don't know if Arenado would be enough of an upgrade, but I mean, if
no
he's
one,
not
by the
playing
way,
great,
5 for 11 with 2 doubles and a homer so far.
we're overreacting, baby.
Yeah, we are overreacting.
My honest answer is almost impossible that he
Okay,
does so bad that they change anything.
fair. Okay, next one. At what point does the center field thing with Oneil Cruz seem
That
like a fool's errand?
I mean, you just called the whole series, brother. You were more tapped in than I was, although I was pretty tapped in. It was a disaster, absolute disaster. But what else are you going to do with the guy? You have one of the worst offenses in Major League Baseball. You need Oneil Cruz to become the player that he could possibly become so badly. And it's like maybe you stash him in right, but then who's playing center? You got to just kind of grit and bear it, I think, for the entirety of this year. The thing is like, it feels like so much of it is buy-in. He's fast. I understand sometimes the reads aren't great.
Yeah.
Well, you can buy in and get better with your reads. You have insane closing speed. He makes the worst decisions out there. He throws balls to home when there's no play. Guys advance. He costs them. I honestly think if Oneil Cruz was DHing this series, and he doesn't have a Rafi Devers effect, I genuinely think that the Pirates could have easily grabbed 2 games. That's not an indictment on the Marlins. These were really close games, and I think
Yeah.
he could have easily been the difference between 2 1-run games here with some of the
Which
things that
is
he was
why the
doing.
margins, right, exactly, which is why the margins are so important. And the one that jumped out to me, there was a throw he made on opening day where Oneil Cruz sailed a ball to the plate. He wanted to show off the gun, and he showed it off, but there was no shot that he was going to get Xavier Edwards scoring from second base.
It wasn't even close.
He threw home. It wasn't close. Otto Lopez pushed to second base because that's what the Marlins have been preaching all spring long. Take the extra 90 feet when it is given to you. Oneil Cruz gave Otto Lopez an extra 90 feet, and he came in to score on an RBI single. That is a huge mistake. I heard that the Pirates did have a conversation with Oneil Cruz about that one. And 48 hours later, Otto Lopez took an extra 90 feet because Oneil Cruz sailed a throw home over the cutoff man when he had no shot to get a guy at the plate. And I said, like, I never, ever do this. But I said on the call, we're 48 hours removed from an identical mistake. Identical mistake. It was crazy to watch that guy. Like, I mean, if he's reading or watching anything, man, like everybody knew that Oneil Cruz made a huge mistake on opening day, and he turns around 2 days later and does the same exact thing in the same exact situation. It was wild
That's
to watch.
that's the thing. Like, look, guys make mistakes all the time, especially opening day game. You got butterflies, game speeding up on you. Like, it was a bad throw, but okay, that happens. Guys do that; they get excited. But then to do it right after when you've had the conversation, and that's kind of been the story with Oneil Cruz is kind of the buy-in, staying focused, staying locked in. I, I just don't know if he's going to have the ability to do that. But the challenge is, who the hell are you putting in center field if it's not him?
No, and I guess Sawinski can handle it in center. I do think at some point Billy Cook and Nick York could handle center field. But
Because the thing is, yeah, they might not have as much range or whatever, but if they don't make bad plays and like I don't know if DRS accounts for those things, it probably doesn't. But making a bad throw and a guy advancing 90 is like worse than it is good to make a diving catch. Like
yeah,
it really is something that should be counting against your defensive, value and things like that as well. So I mean, it's something that honestly I think you give it runway because this offense is so brutal. But if he's still making mental mistakes and his reads aren't looking any better and he's just not bought in,
mhm,
and I want to say like shout out Jazz Chisholm because Jazz earned that or didn't earn it sometimes. I think it was almost unfair at points. And I've been very critical of Jazz at points, but like Jazz had this rap of like kind of the same attitude at points.
yeah,
But Jazz worked hard out there and didn't make a lot of those mistakes. And when he did, he corrected them. And for Jazz to get by in center field when he did with the Marlins and then afterwards a little bit, it's even more impressive now. And then he got by at third. And like, I just want to say, like, he gets a little bit of that labeled persona of maybe not always being locked in and bought in or whatever. I think he's very clearly separated himself from an Oneil Cruz in
yes,
terms of the way he goes about his business and how he learns things out there.
absolutely. And more on Jazz in a moment. I do have one more Pirate thing, and this is the last bad that we got to get to here. Do the Pirates have a closer problem after 4 games?
That one is 100%. I think 100% not an overreaction at all. I think it's Einstein's definition of insanity that they keep rolling Bednar out there.
I mean, he had a 5.77 ERA last year, and he has made 3 games either losses for the Pirates or way closer than they could have been. Like in the one game that he did save, he allowed a 2-run home run to Otto Lopez.
Yeah, it was a bad spring. It was bad last year. Like he needs a reset.
The
Get
volatility of the closer position, man, we talk about it all the time. So, what makes David Bednar immune from that? I understand that he was a top 10 reliever in Major League Baseball in 2022 and 2023, but we're in 25, and things change for relievers like that.
They also ran the poor man into the ground. Like they were throwing him like crazy in 22 and 23, like multi-inning relief appearance, especially in 22. The amount of 2 inning appearances he had in 2022, or and just like pitching the next day, like they used him like crazy. I think they need to give this poor guy just a reset. It's just they're just rolling him out there and putting him in tough spots where he's just I don't think he's in a position to have success out there yet right now, and it's been tough to see.
Yeah. No, it's been really tough to see. And I mean, Justin Lawrence looked really good. Like that sweeper looked awesome.
He
Dennis
looks
Santana
gross.
has been
That's
good.
what that's what Niner and I were actually talking about, right? As Griff hit the home run, is like he was like, "How did Lawrence have a 6 ERA?" I was like, "Yeah, just get those guys out of course." He's like, "That guy's disgusting."
It's
And then I
disgusting.
was like, and then we're talking Holderman. He was ripping 2 splitters, and I'm like, "Yeah, this guy's gross too." And then the high fastball that was a little too low. We'll get to that though.
Griff goes yard. All right, pivoting to the good here. Is Aaron Judge going to break his home run record?
I'm glad that we can even just start to dream about it because when you can have a number to chase, I think it just makes baseball more fun and exciting. By the way, he's already at 0.8 F4 through 3 games, 547 WRC plus. He could do it. Why not? Are you ever going to put a ceiling on this man?
I'm never going to. And some of the swings that he put on baseballs, obviously he capitalized on Nestor, right? He was the third swing on the third pitch of the game when they went back to back to back. That was game 2. That was the first 3 pitches of the game. The Yankees go yard 3 times and they win 20-9. But the one that got me was a little bit later on in the game. It was the grand slam from Judge. Pitch was high and tight on him. And he can get to any baseball that he wants. It was lean back and fire and go. Like he is so malleable around the perimeter of the strike zone. If guys throw him anything in the vicinity of the strike zone, he can hit it out of the ballpark.
He's
And
just so
this guy,
strong
like, he's somehow getting better.
because he's really smart and knows how to continue to leverage his strengths and try to hedge those weaknesses. The tough part is when he's out of whack, like timing wise, then it looks rough and you can see it. But when he is locked in timing wise and he's continued to just make it to where he's locked in timing wise more and more and more and more compared to not being,
Yeah.
how do you get this guy out? He can golf balls out, like you said, he can hit them out at the top of the zone. He can pull balls out that are off the plate away. When he is on time it looks amazing. That's why people talk about it being like a postseason thing. I think it's really just late in the year. Pitchers are pitching him a little bit differently, and he doesn't quite have the time to settle in. This guy has the ability to do just about anything. So I'm excited. My only concern is, does he get pitched to enough? Because why would you pitch this guy? He's a 19% walk rate the last 2 years. He may just not get enough to hit to reach that plateau because of that lineup around him. No Soto this year as well. Like Jazz, Bellinger, they're going to need to step up a little bit and offer this man some protection. But even then, those guys would need to be on pace for 40 home runs for me to consider doing anything other than pitching around Judge consistently.
So the thing that jumps out to me about Judge, and even if they don't pitch to him, right? He's already walked 3 times in 14 plate appearances. He walked 133 times last year. He had a 458 on base percentage. That can get close to a 500 OBP. As it stands right now, tiny sample size theater, 14 plate appearances. He has an OPS, an on base plus luck, 2461 OPS right now. And the thing is, you look at that and say, "Oh, that's gonna cut into a third." I don't think so, man. Like he had an 1159 OPS last year. So when you think about factoring in on base percentage, even if he walks more than anybody we've ever seen, like why can't he be as good as his 1159 OPS from a year ago?
And I love the idea of him not playing center anymore, too. It
Yeah.
is so much more taxing. I talk about it with guys all the time. They get exhausted, like part-time center fielders, because when they have to go play center, you're backing up everything both directions.
Everything.
Everything's in your domain. Judge just at 33 now, being able to get through a season where his legs are maybe under him a little bit more through the duration of it because he's playing right, I think could be huge for him as well.
Yep. Okay. Another Yankee here. Jazz Chisholm may be better than anyone's ever given him credit for. I know that he was on the cover of a video game, but this could be the year, if he stays healthy, and obviously health has been a huge thing, this could be the year that we look at Jazz Chisholm as a star Major League Baseball player. And I don't think that we've had the opportunity to do that yet in his Major League career.
And you got to imagine the impact of being able to go to New York, where we know that just it fits his personality and everything, but just being able to be surrounded by an Aaron Judge and a Giancarlo Stanton, and even how about like a guy like Paul Goldschmidt now, and just these vets that know how to freaking swing it, man. Like
Mhm.
you can say what you want about Jazz and the way he goes about his business. He takes his craft seriously, and I do think when he's in the cage, I can almost promise he's not standing in there saying, "I know it all. Like I don't need your info." I can guarantee that guy is picking the brain of Aaron Judge and picking the brain of some of the guys that are around him, and even a Bellinger or whoever it may be. And I think that's kind of that like missing piece is a little bit of the mental approach side of things, consistency, and maybe a little bit of a tweak here or there. And I mean, the bat speed is ridiculous. The ability to pull the ball in the air is crazy. If he shores up those final little components, why can't he be a 30-40 guy? I think he's very easily could be this year, and they need him to be honest. Like they absolutely need him to be.
I'm totally with you. And he could be the second best player on the New York Yankees. Like, I do not think that is outside the realm of possibilities. And I know people are saying, "Oh, how did you compliment Aaron Judge when you miss out on Soto?" All of that. I understand that they went with quantity and getting Devin Williams when they probably would not have been in a position to do so. Like, that's great. And grabbing a Goldie, okay, sure. And Wells and
Bellinger,
Goldschmidt being their, yeah, like Bellinger too, but Wells and Goldschmidt being their leadoff options. It's just funny. Volpe can level up. But there's a world where Jazz Chisholm is the second best player on the New York Yankees this year. And I think that that's a fun world to live in. So,
absolutely.
is Otto Lopez an all star this year?
I think for the Marlins, I'm looking like who would be representing them. Other than Sandy on the bump, like I think Otto's got the best shot. People don't realize how good he was in the second half last year too, because
And
you look at the cumulative numbers and they're not nearly and they're solid, but they're not nearly as good as I think people would expect. Like from this, I think there was a little AAA stint in Jacksonville. I think he was banged up, and so like once he came back from injury, the 14th, so his first game was the 19th. From that point onward,
of August or July?
oh, that was of July.
Okay.
I think honestly, if I cut it down even more than that, if I go a little bit shorter than that, the numbers get pretty crazy from like the 1st of August onward. Yeah, OPS over 800 while being one of the best defensive second basemen in the entire sport, 12 for 15 in the stolen base department. Yeah, you might say, well, that's not crazy numbers. He was DFA'd twice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to get that, and I'm pretty sure over that span of 50 games, he had like 3 WAR. So, in a world where Andres Jimenez is getting mega deals, uh, this could be kind of that similar type of starter kit where you're getting elite defense at second base. Even if the offense is league average, you're still going to get plenty of value there. And we're seeing right now, the offense is pretty good. It
Yep. Yep.
was
Yep.
317, 370, 447, by the way, in that span.
How about that? Okay. And he was, I think, 333 in spring training. He was really good in spring training, and then he's been awesome to start the year. Homered against Bednar, has a couple of hard hit baseballs as well, and playing elite defense over at second base right now. I think this guy can push Terang for the Gold Glove at second base in the
Ooh.
National League, which is fun. So
Yeah. If you add in the 4 games to start the season, his last 56 games, 318, 376, 453, 8% walk rate, 17% K rate, 13 bags.
it's a real good player, man.
Good player.
Another real good player. Is Griffin Conine winning a Gold Glove this year?
If he's out there enough, I think he's got every opportunity to. The DRS is crazy, right?
Yeah, DRS is crazy. I think it was Louis Weiss that had it. Let's see. It's been 28 career games, but Griffin Conine has 8 defensive runs saved. Yeah, Louis Weiss pulled that. A fish on first.
The
That's
arm value.
crazy. 8 DRS in 28 games, man.
Yeah. And the robbed home run, like I think we'll start to see the outs above average trickle in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. So when he robbed that home run, you've seen that everywhere. I think it was number 2 on Sports Center top 10.
Yeah.
Uh, he got Anthony Bender bought him a nice bottle of tequila as a thank you.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's pretty cool. But yeah, you got a nice gift for saving the ERA there. But yeah, look, if he's out there enough, I think he's got a chance, especially because a lot of those awards are kind of based on the fielding Bible or whatever, like defensive run
Mhm.
save side of things. So
Yeah,
if you rack him up, baby, like he's got a shot. Juan Soto can do it. Griffin Conine can do it.
for sure. Last Marlins one, I promise. Max Meyer looks like a different pitcher, and he looks like a really good pitcher. Did you get to watch much of Max yesterday?
Yeah, that was fun. That's actually part of the time where I was going towards sort of the box with the conines, like going towards the monitor so I could actually see the pitches and see how everything was moving. Him having a more horizontal working pitch and having that sweeper as well, it may not be the best pitch in the world, but just to have something that hitters have to respect horizontally, I think is huge
Yeah.
because it was just fastball, gyro, slider so much before. And it was kind of a similar situation where almost the opposite of what we are talking about with Roki, or actually, yeah, very similar to what we're talking about with Roki, where I think anything starting at the bottom of the zone, hitters would just shut that down, sit on the fastball, and even though it's 96, the shape is just was never there, so it didn't work quite as well. Now he's throwing it a little bit harder than he was throwing it last year. It was more 94, 95 last year. Now it's 96, and you've got the sweeper. I think Meyer's going to be a really solid, potentially even middle rotation arm for the Marlins, but I think you got to feel really good about him at least being a 4 for you moving forward, and that's a great spot for a guy that, we were wondering at some points, like maybe they just put that slider in the bullpen and he's great at leverage and he could be a closer. No, this guy looks like he could be a solid starter. And you get Weathers back soon too. There's some fun arms that you get to call every day.
I'm totally with you, man. Former Marlin. My take is that the Phillies may have the best starting rotation in Major League Baseball because Jesus Luzardo in his Philly debut, 5 innings, 11 Ks, and 2 walks, 2 earned runs against him. But he rode that slider, dude. Lefties, righties, it did not matter. That slider was disgusting from Luzardo this weekend.
Touched 99 too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy for him because it was a long year. He was banged up last year, and in the spring training, you just get the 3 home run barrage. Or was it 3 or 4 straight home runs? What was it? Back to
It
back to
was
back.
3 home runs in spring training on 3 pitches.
In the middle of a manager interview, and then I love Eduardo Perez, but Eduardo Perez like doing the color of explaining how the guy went deep
Yeah, like that
as
was
the manager.
smoked, 109
Yeah,
off the bat.
yeah,
Rob
that was
Thompson
smoked.
advanced.
You got a pitch in there, put a good just pretend it's not happening. It's spring training. Just let the manager like talk and let's get through this thing. But no, I mean if Luzardo, we've talked about it. If Luzardo's throwing like that and Peter's been very pro Phillies have the best rotation. I think if Luzardo's throwing like this and everybody else is healthy, I don't think there's an argument even for the Mariners. I think it'd be tough to even make that argument. The weakest link would be what Aaron Nola in that rotation at that point. Then or there's
Probably. I mean, he's better than No, Sanchez is better than him. So what? Wheeler's better than Nola. Luzardo, if he's throwing like this, is better than Nola. Sanchez is better than Nola. Suarez and
Suarez is better
Nola's
than Nola at this point, I
Suarez is better
think.
than Nola, and Nola is Nola. So
And Nola's the best. If Nola's a back end rotation starter for you, he's the best version of that. He gets overhated because we're expecting him to be a frontline guy, and he's just mostly in the mid threes.
he's a three. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. It's interesting. Seattle, the Kirby injury is probably what is subconsciously docking them for me. But Logan Gilbert looked like a top 10 arm in baseball when he threw on opening day. So I,
Brian Wu looked like Brian Wu.
yeah, like right now it's the Mariners, but I'm open to the conversation of Philly being the best rotation in baseball. Last one for you. The Rays have their next frontline guy. Ryan Pepiot filled in for Shane
Hmm.
McClanahan on opening day, and Ryan Pepiot, 6 innings, one earned run, one unearned run. He K'd 8 and walked 1. He threw 85 pitches, 58 for strikes. We saw Pepiot start to transform at the end of his Dodger time. Like he slimmed down a little bit, he got really athletic, and he looked good at points last year. Ryan Pepiot's flat out nasty. And they always have a guy that blossoms like this. And I think me personally, and probably you too, we were just penciling in Taj Bradley to be that next guy to like really blossom into that guy. Like, oh, is McClanahan next? It's going to be Taj or Boz, Taj or Boz. Pepiot's here.
I was gonna troll you and just say like, oh, it takes 6 innings of 2 run ball against the Rockies and you're all in. But no, I know you've been excited about him. Thinking about it from that lens, like who's the next guy that's taking the reins? Assuming like it's a healthy McClanahan, but just for the sake of this conversation, I love Taj and what he's shown. As you mentioned, I still think Boz can be a really good arm. But in terms of the diversity of pitches that you can just look stupid from, Pepiot just has a different level of arsenal, I think, than these other guys. With the fastball, then just kind of setting the tone in the mid 90s, but then the changeup, the cutter, slider working off of that, like it does feel like he's just got a little bit more going for him stuff wise than those other two arms. And I don't think anybody would have expected it that way. So no, I don't think that's a crazy overreaction, and it's a great spot to be in because I still do believe in Bradley and Boz. I just think Pepiot's more at this point, which is crazy to say because in the past I would have never said this. I think he's more impervious to the blow up start
Which is
than these
crazy
other
because
two,
if he
which
didn't
is
have his
insane.
changeup a year and a half ago, if he was without his changeup, it was blow up start 101.
And that changeup is so freaking good, though. But yeah, if he didn't have it, no. But now he's got this cutter at 90
Yeah.
that, like, okay, you're going to see that the days where he doesn't have his changeup. Okay, Pepiot's a little one dimensional today, but he's going to just survive fastball, cutter, slider, and make it work and get through 6 innings. And, like, I don't think we ever would have imagined that with him. So I'm excited about what Pepiot's got going on here. And I just think the staff is, we talked about it on yesterday's episode. I think the staff is otherworldly.
Yeah.
Like it is crazy.
It's fun, man. That's what we got. You got any others?
No, I just wanted to shout out Jacob Mizorowski on the AAA side. We're going to be doing a full recap of AAA opening weekend and all that stuff. But Mizorowski, the Brewers had a really bad pitching weekend, as we talked about. So at the very least, you've got your top prospect arm in AAA, who we've kind of talked about. Do they relegate him to the bullpen? What do they do? 5 innings, 1 hit, no runs, only 3 walks, 7 Ks. He made the Jumbo Shrimp, which is a good lineup,
Yeah, really good
look
lineup.
lost. Lost. I'm recapping the whole start in the Discord and talking about it. But he looked fantastic. So if this staff keeps looking a little crappy at top, they might just roll the dice on Mizorowski and say, let's go with the experience. Talk about impervious to blow up start.
Yeah.
Not going to be the case with Mizorowski, but he could be lights out for you too. So great start for him. If he strings together a handful of starts like that, I wouldn't be shocked if the Brewers are off to a slow start on their end. They kind of say, hey, we need some new blood here. Let's try to change things up.
Yep. That's what we got, man. Those are our overreactions, I guess, takes or like takeaways from the first opening weekend of Major League Baseball in 2025. Every link you need is in the episode description. Please join our Discord. We're doing a little bit more structured Q&A as we get deeper into the season two, which I know you're really excited about.
Oh yeah, I mean, I love that stuff. We did them all the time on YouTube, and it was really fun to have people jumping in there and asking amazing questions and hanging out. And we're going to do the same thing on the Discord, and just so much fun baseball conversation going on in there. So looking forward to that.
We love that. A reminder, no show tomorrow. When you do hear a show on Wednesdays, it'll likely be an interview, but no show tomorrow. And Peter and Aram will be back to talk to you guys on Thursday.